This video tutorial shows you how to work with the repository of the QB Generator Part 66 exam management software. The repository is a useful tool. It enables you to manage sets of hand-picked questions and output them as either an exam or to print. Every administrator has their own repository. Any work an administrator does inside the repository does not affect the repository of any other administrator. Additionally, there is a separate independent repository for every module. After logging in as usual, go to the questions page and select the module with which you want to work. Here you see two panels, called the Generator Handpicked Exam and Print Questions. Both of these functions use the repository. They use the same repository. Click on the button Review Repository to see if there are currently some questions inside. The repository opens in a pop-up window. Any questions that are inside the repository are displayed here. Note that any questions in the repository stay there until they are either manually cleared, or until you generate an exam in this same module. Close the repository, and then click the Clear Repository button. This empties the repository of all questions. Note that you are not deleting the questions from the main database. You are simply clearing the repository of any questions that were previously copied into there. After confirming, you can recheck the repository's content to be sure that it is now empty. This demonstration shows you how to use the repository to generate a handpicked exam. This is an exam where you choose the questions manually, one by one. Such an exam is ideal for short phase exams or to create practice exams for your trainees, on particular topics. First, you must filter the questions by license category. This is very important. If you do not do this, the QB generator does not know what license category to display on the exam output. If you forget to do this step, the QB generator prompts you to go back and do it when you try to add some questions to the repository. Now you can select, or handpick, the questions you want to add to the repository. Tick the questions you want to pick, and click the Add Selected to Repository button. After you have confirmed, you can open the repository to check that they have been added. If you change your mind about one or more questions, you can delete them individually. You can close the repository and select more questions. You can repeat this as often as you need, until you have the exact set of questions and the number of questions you desire. If you have added questions from multiple subsections, you can see that they are sorted by subsections. Adding more questions within an existing subsection slots the new questions into their respective subsection. You can also add more questions from within the repository itself. With the repository open, click Add Questions. The entire set of questions from the main database appears. You can select the additional questions here and click Add Selected to Repository. When we have created the repository with just the questions we need, we can generate an exam using these questions. Within the Generator Handpicked Exam panel, select the date and time of the exam, select the class, and click Generate. The process, from here on, is similar to that of generating a random exam. You can save and output the exam as a printable exam, or as an e-exam. A button called Review Repository on this page also allows you to check the contents of the repository one final time, before you save the exam. This button is also available when you generate a random exam, in the usual way, so that you can fine-tune even a randomly generated exam, since generating a random exam enters the questions into the repository, overwriting any questions that are already existing in the repository. Close the repository, then choose what type of exam you want to create. Returning to the questions page, we now demonstrate how to use the repository to output the questions onto a clean screen, in case you want to print out the questions, or export them from the QB generator. Go to the Print Questions panel. It uses the same repository as did the Generator Handpicked Exam panel. The only difference between the button here, Add Selected to Repository, and the button of the same name on the Generator Handpicked Exam panel, is that this button does not demand that you set the license category first. We demonstrate the print function using the questions we have previously put into the repository. Click the Print button. Then select what data you want to include on your printed output. Then click the Submit button. The questions from the repository now appear on a clean page. It has all the data items you chose. Notice that the page output is a new browser tab, so you can switch back to the administration page without closing your questions output page. You can select the print tool on your browser and print the questions to hard copy or PDF if you have a PDF printer software installed. You can also highlight all the questions, and you can copy them to your computer clipboard. They can then be pasted into any other software, such as Microsoft Word, or a text file. Remember that any questions you export from the QB generator in this way represent a security risk, and they should be controlled appropriately. We demonstrate here how generating an exam in the usual way, that is, a random exam, overwrites the repository. Here we are generating a random exam. Even before we saved the exam, the questions were randomly picked by the QB generator and put into the repository. Therefore, the QB generator uses the repository to hold the exam questions whilst you decide what type of exam output you want to generate, a printed, or an e-exam. Click the Review Repository button to see which questions the QB generator has randomly picked. Make sure that the QB generator has selected the correct number of questions. You can, if you want, tweak the exam. For example, you can remove a question that might conflict with another question, and replace it from the main database of questions. Finally, you can save the exam either as an e-exam or as a printable exam. Returning to the questions page, click the Review Repository button. You see that the same set of questions is still in the repository. And so they stay, until you either manually clear the repository, or until you generate another exam, even without saving, in this same module. Remember, if another administrator creates another exam, this does not affect your repository. Your repository is your own personal space, in which you can build your own set of questions. You can log out of the QB generator and return later. The questions will still be in the repository for you to pick up where you left off.